I'm Rebecca Oppenheimer. I'm the co-chair of the Atlanta chapter of ACCESS.
And I'm Mark Elman, and I'm just an ACCESS member in Miami, and this is my third year coming to this event.
And which track were you guys on?
I was on the Civility Track.
And I was on the Delegitimization Track.
Perfect.
So that worked out well.
Perfect.
We complement each other well.
So if there was one conclusion that you guys could each take from something new that you've learned within the course of this conference, or a new kind of thought, what would that thought be from each of the respective tracks?
There's so much work to be done,
Mm-hmm.
and it's nice to be introduced to new people and resources as tools that we can use to help do this work moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And what kind of work? Like what specifically for the Atlanta chapter?
Well, especially for Atlanta, for us, we really focus on opening a dialogue with other groups and continuing the relationships that we already have. Because let's say there's a God forbid, we want to already have those lines of communication open.
Mm-hmm.
So what we were talking about this weekend was really pertinent to that and inspiring, and gave us a couple of ideas to take home.
So what specifically do you think was helpful in terms of learning how to open a dialogue? Like if you could give me something a little more specific.
Sure. Listening to the other party, not being accusatory,
Mm-hmm.
not using or starting sentences with things like "you said," just because the word "you" is so accusatory in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Just focusing on tone and your messages, and not just being so concerned with relaying to them your perspective, but to be open to hearing theirs, and then at the end of that, confirming with them that you heard correctly and understand their perspective.
So you feel like this weekend has definitely helped shape those kind of ideas, you know, or solidify them for you in terms of opening dialogue?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So what about you?
Well, I was here first for the global conference, and I knew I wanted to do both because I felt I've sometimes referred to the ACCESS thing as a sub-conference, but really it was an extension, and I think it also gave everything that was discussed in the global forum a more practical, a more accessible context in which to apply the knowledge. My first response is that I find that the experience is a mixed blessing. As Rebecca and I were talking about, this isn't reality. We are in a bubble physically and kind of symbolically as well, that we have so much intellectual brain power. There is so much passion. We have numbers. We have quality and quantity people. Then we leave here, and we really see reality for what it is. Much of the discussions that are held, or we'd like to hold, are being held with opponents or people who don't share our views. And like Rebecca was saying, I think the temptation is to try to insist and not proselytize, but really try to almost coerce others into seeing the truth, because they are reluctant. We want them to, but that's not the style that works. So unfortunately, we have to meet them where they're at. And that is an example. Before this conference, I went to dinner at the Egyptian ambassador's house, and he took a pretty hard line. I wouldn't say it's anti-Israel, but it certainly wasn't pro-Israel. And we were in his ballpark. And as much as we wanted to refute some of his comments and challenge and put him on the defensive, it would be hard to find any common ground if we immediately put them on the defensive. And just to follow up, I think that this conference makes us encourages us to do the really hard work, the dirty work, which is having uncomfortable conversations, engaging our opponents. I don't want to call it the enemy, but the delegitimizers, in dialogue that's uncomfortable for both sides because we disagree so much, but that's what we have to do. And if it just ended with all the knowledge we took here, maybe this conference was actually self-defeating. If it just ended with the knowledge.
Right.
Because unless it really, we go out and spread the good news and engage, we're holding on to a really important body of encouragements and knowledge that we haven't used.
So it seems like to me that what both of you guys are saying is that both tracks actually kind of came out with this theme of engagement, of creating relationships, of fostering trust between parties, and of, you know, utilizing that trust and that foundation to really be able to express, you know, our own views in a smart and intelligent way, as David Harris was saying, and also to have the, you know, the respect and the listening capacity to understand not only what they are saying, but where they're coming from, and to try to really get down into that dirty kind of atmosphere where you're really able to understand, like in the trenches, you know, what you know, someone is saying. It's funny, this morning I was listening to the news, and they were saying, a guy was talking about Palestine and about the Israelis, and basically he was saying how he was talking to Israelis and Palestinians about his own views, and then someone said to him, "You're not here. You don't know what it's like."
Right.
And that kind of was a slap in the face in terms of saying, okay, well, we really have to be, you know, really, really thoughtful about where somebody is coming from in their situation. And in addition, we really have to be able to support, you know, the arguments, especially, you know, in terms of the delegitimization of Israel. Those are really pertinent.
Absolutely.
So if there was one speaker that you guys could each kind of identify who you thought was really fantastic this weekend, and something that they said that you thought was profound, that would be great.
That's a loaded question for Rebecca, but I'll let her take it.
I don't know if I can say that on camera.
Well, you don't have to
Maybe
say
in a
why.
positive, or
you just have to
you
say
know.
Who? David Harris.
Okay.
Hands down, I'm a big fan. He's motivating and inspiring and humbling and empowering and all things smart and intelligent and good. And he says exactly what we all want to hear, what we need to hear, and what hopefully we can then go and tell other people. So I think he just summed up the conference very nicely, and it's always a really enjoyable thing for me to hear him speak.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Incredible.
Yeah. He, I think, you know, some of the things that he said that really were influential was when he was talking about, if I'm right, like Martin Luther King, when he said, like, you know, in 1965 he spoke at the AJC, and he said, you know, basically to the Jewish community, like, you were the ones, the AJC, you were the ones
Right.
to first speak on behalf of, you know, the African Americans as early as 1911, and when very few dared to do that, and, you know, kind of David placing that within the context of saying, you know, when one population is vulnerable, we're vulnerable. When one population suffers, we suffer. That nothing is, you know, no problem is so, you know, apart
Isolated.
that
Right.
it's not going to affect, you know, our community or any other community. So what about you, Mark? Who
Yeah,
do you
sure. I
think-
mean, even in talking in private with people, I'm like, yeah, I find, you know, David Harris to be a cross between Martin Luther King and, you know, certain really current engaging speakers. But I would actually, what I will take away is, I'll remember actually the first speakers that I heard in the first workshop. I don't remember their names, but one of them was the head of campus advocacy in New Zealand for Israel. And then the other one was the head of campus advocacy, either in Australia or Britain. The names aren't as important, but they were young. Theodore Roosevelt, they spoke softly and they carried a big stick. Like, they didn't actually, their actions spoke for themselves. And the fact that they were young and involved, and I think that really set the tone for this particular, for the Access conference, which is that, you know, this is not top down. This is really bottom up, and that's what distinguishes the two. Is there's people who experienced all these issues in the 20th century and can reflect back, and then people who are experiencing them in real time and speaking about them and really taking action in the 21st century. And then the second would be Ken Stein, because I see how difficult the challenge he has in refuting many of the allegations in Jimmy Carter's book, which really set the precedent for the use of terms like apartheid and illegitimate state and occupier and all these loaded terms, which we certainly don't feel applies to Israel. But I like the fact that even though he worked for Carter, that he's willing to take a stand, and that's what's not important is loyalty but truth. And so I feel like he does a really good job of distinguishing between the two.
So I think, you know, for you, you're saying that truth, you know, it inspires you to kind of pursue truth above all, and to really just, you know, reflect that, or else what are we living but a lie.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, absolutely.
Cool. Okay, well thank you so much guys, that was amazing.
Thanks, Samantha.
Thanks.
Thank you.